Sean Atwood's going to do it. Sean Atwood's the 2002 Junior World Champion in Stuttgart, Arkansas, from Fairfield. I'm right here in Fairfield. Him and his dad are die-hard hunters, and Sean is a very accomplished caller, so he's going to go ahead and tell you all about calling. If you have any questions, just go ahead and raise your hand, and he'll be happy to answer them for you, I'm sure. All right, Sean.
All right. There's a big difference in between comp calling and field calling. Comp calling is a lot louder for one thing, and you wouldn't be blowing a comp call in the field. I don't care if you're hunting rice, timber, marsh, it doesn't matter. You would not be blowing a comp routine in the field. What I'm going to go ahead and do right now is I'll cut it short. I'll do a quick little comp routine, and I'll do something I would do in the field real fast for you guys, just to show you what I'm talking about. That's basically what a comp routine is, but I cut out a few parts like...
Whoa, that was fantastic.
Thank you. You start off with the birds way out there, and you hit them with a hell call that's not your normal hell call. It runs from anywhere from 20 to, I've heard, like 32 note hell calls, and it's extremely loud. And once you hit them with the hell call, you hit them with a distant greeting, and all that is like a bat, 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 and it's 2 in a row. When they start coming in, you start finessing them a little bit more, and you go into your little bouncing hens, and and then you start going into your feed chuckle, and it's not your average feed chuckle. It's a lot faster. It's what they call a double cluck, and all that is just a fast-paced chuckle. It's not something you'd really be doing in the field either. And after that, you start coming up to your bring up to your hell call, which is when the birds are going to start taking off, going a different direction. And you usually start that off real low coming out of your chuckle, just a little soft pep, 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 and then hit them a little bit harder on the next one. You hit them with a pep, 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 pep. And the last one, you give them that screaming hell call again, except you make it a lot shorter on the top one. And then you got your comeback, which is 3 short hell calls in one breath. And then after the hell call, you start working them back down. You get them turned around with the hell call, and they start coming back towards you. You hit them again with your bouncing hens. The whap, 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 whap. And after that, you go back into your feeding chuckle. But what I'd like to do is make that chuckle sequence a lot shorter and make it cleaner than the first one. And it's not as fast. It's more of something you do in the field. So I would do something like this maybe. And then you go into your set down, and right before your set down, you do 3 lonesome hens, and all that is 3 quacks, just. And then the set down. That's basically what a competition routine is. In the field, you're going to want to be not, how do I put this, you're not going to be blowing a competition routine like I've stated before. When most people get in the field, they somewhat understand what they're doing out there, you know. A lot of people don't understand the fact of what you have to do, which is reading the birds when you're calling to them. A lot of people will just pick up the call and say, oh, there's birds, and just start blowing at them, and that's it. Most time you'll figure out the birds don't really want to listen. So what I just explained with the competition routine, where you're starting them when they're out in the distance and they're starting to move closer and closer, and you lose them and then get them back, that's one scenario you run into quite a bit when you're duck hunting. That's probably part of the reason why they have it as a competition routine. But when you're calling in the field, it's a lot quieter. What I would do, say there's birds maybe about 100 yards away, and they're kind of coming, but they're kind of not. What I would do is I'd get their attention by doing a quick little, and if that doesn't get their attention, I'd make it a little bit more aggressive, just, and that right there is pretty much just like you would in a competition routine. It gets their attention, and when they start coming, I'd get on them. I'd get aggressive with them a little bit. Just give them something like a, keep their attention as they're coming. And as you notice, they start coming in. They're starting to get the attention on the decoy spread, and they're coming and they're coming and they're coming. That's when you want to start maybe getting a little softer on them, start finessing them a little bit, which is, you know, just simple little bouncing hinge, just to keep their attention. And once they get probably about maybe 70 yards and they're locked up and they're coming, I would start hitting with maybe a little bit of a feed call, just a, and if that start losing their attention, and that feed call, don't make it like you're coming back and hitting them hard. Just give them a little, and that if they turn on that, go right back into the feed call and give them a couple soft quacks in the feed call. Just give them a, and with what I'm doing there with the quacks and the chuckle, it should keep their attention, because not only in that chuckle are they hearing just the chuckle, you know, they're hearing the quacks, and that's keeping their attention, so they're not hearing the same thing over and over again, you know. And another thing I've noticed is when the birds start going away, don't hit them as soon as they turn around and start going away. Keep on what you're doing. You know, if you're in the chuckle and the birds turn around and they start going away, maybe slow down the chuckle a little bit at first, just instead of going. What I do is go, give them a second and then hit them with a, and if they don't turn around, that's when you want to start bringing it up and picking up the pace on them a little bit. Don't make it sound like you're getting worried. Keep the hen relaxed, but let them know, give them the aggressiveness of it. Just like a, and when the birds turn back around, they start coming in again. That's when you want to start getting into the little lighter stuff like the, and then they're going to come back in, and once they start working again, same way again. Once they hit like the 70 yard range, get on them with the chuckle again. Just I've noticed some guys, they do the sit down hen when they're calling, right? Most of the time I don't throw it in there, because by the time I'm ready to do the set down hen, I'm ready to shoot anyways. So I pretty much leave that out of the pictures. But a lot of guys throw it in, you know. But you know, if you're to the point where you're going to do the set down hen, the birds are on the decoys, you're going to shoot them. So I just leave it out. What I just did there was I took what I did in the competition routine and turned it into a field routine. And you can tell the difference in between a comp routine and what you'd be blowing in the field. Field calling is a lot quieter than it would be out blown in a competition stage. One thing about calling that people have trouble with is hand position. And what people don't understand is it's not just what you're doing with your mouth on the call, it's the way you hold it in your hand. I mean, I've seen people hold it in so many different ways. You know, I've seen people keep their hands wide open the whole time they're calling, and I've also seen guys keep their hands completely closed. I've seen guys use two hands like this. You know, one way that I found out that's the easiest for me to learn was I just took it in my hand, rolled it down my thumb right where the insert is, and just took my thumb and put it down over the insert over the top of the insert, not cover and hold, just over the edge of the insert like that, and then close my hands over my thumb. And what that does is that gets rid of chatter, but it keeps the rasp in your call. Because if you notice, when I keep my hands open, it's like you can hear the gravel in it. But if I start closing my hands a little bit, you'll start hearing the gravel go away, and it'll turn into rasp. And if you close a little bit more, you'll start getting a deeper sound, and you'll still keep the rasp, but it'll get deeper. And by the time your hand's always closed, you're gonna end up getting that gravel back. So the way I always figured to do it is have the insert right in between your thumb and your index finger. Hold it down. Start off with your finger straight on the call and make one long note, just until you get the call to where it wants to be. You'll hear the gravelness start going away from it. I'm pretty sure you guys can hear the difference in that, right? And after you get that part down, you know, just like I said before, the placement on your lip is important too, and where you're blowing from. I've seen guys blow from their lungs. I've seen guys blowing from the cheeks. I've seen guys blow from places I've never even knew were there before. So, one thing I always learned was from the guy that makes the calls I blow, which is Joe Lairs, is take the call and stick it on your lip like you're about to blow on or like you're gonna drink out of a bottle, right? And just kind of roll it up to your top lip. And instead of blowing on it like you're about to blow on candles on your cake, right? Instead of using your cheeks, go like you're in a cough through your call. And what that's doing is that coming from your diaphragm. That's pushing air up from your diaphragm. And that way, when you're using your tongue, it's not gonna, like, listen, I'll give you an example. I'll blow with my cheeks, and you'll hear it. It's not as clean as what I'd be doing from my diaphragm. And what blowing from the diaphragm does is that'll make it a lot cleaner, and you have a lot more control over what you're doing. And also, when you're blowing from your diaphragm, one thing I notice is people tend to overpower when they're calling. They tend to overblow from their diaphragm. So what I've always done is I'll take one deep breath, right? And instead of just letting it all go at once, I'll take a second, I'll go, and that gives you time to think about what you're letting out of your throat when you're calling. That's another thing. Your throat and tongue has a lot to do with it too. The placement of your tongue, you know, say you're doing a feed and chuckle, right? And you're going, you always want to keep that tongue at the bottom of your back, of the bottom of your teeth, at the bottom of your bottom teeth. There we go. At the bottom of your teeth. And place it on the top of your root of your mouth and just. And when I started learning how to chuckle, when I would mess around, when my dad would have his calls out in the room, I would just start going tick 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 tick, and start building up from there. Just. And day by day, I would start picking up the pace. I'd be going. And eventually, I would add on a couple notes. Just. And after that, I started moving on to more complicated stuff. You know, I would start messing around trying to do hell calls and stuff. And the quickest way I've learned to do it, and the quickest way I tell people to do it is, when you're doing your hell call, it's not. I hear a lot of guys just go bap 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 bap, and they do like one steady line, right? One quickest way I learned how to do is start off with one note, right? You go bap, and then you give it a second. You go to the second one, and you drop it down a little bit, bap, and you drop down to the third one, bap, 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 and then the last two. So what that would sound like is. After you do that a couple times, you'll start getting in your head of what you got to do, and then you start picking up the pace. And eventually, you'll get down to the point where you're able to do it without even thinking. Just. That's worked for a lot of the people I've talked to that wanted help on that type of stuff. Another way to learn would maybe just I don't know. I've heard guys do it this way. I don't know if it really works or not. I've never seen anybody actually use it before. But a guy named Harry Boyle, one of our local guides, taught me when I was a little kid that if you actually listen to birds, right, and you record them, you listen to them and record them and record them and record them, you'll literally get that sound stuck in your head, and it'll just come naturally to you. Like, you hear mallards in the water, right? Say you got a local park around, you're listening to mallards, you hear them talking to each other. You sit there and listen to it over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually you'll start piecing it together like, okay, they're making this sound, right? You sit there and you make one of those sounds at a time. You sit there and the whole time you're doing this, you're rewinding that tape and playing it over again and sitting there and listening to it and copying, trying to copy the sounds that it makes. Okay, I guess that'll do it for now. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'll take a second, I'll go.